So I like to think of the long game and invite people to play the long game. And that's what Drucker said was effective. So efficiency is doing things right, like getting them done, doing things right. And effectiveness is about doing the right things.
Welcome to the Leadership Transformations Podcast. I'm your host, Nikki Swan, Principal Consultant with Peridot Circle Consulting. In this podcast, we explore real-life situations with the help of our two founders and principal consultants, Janet Taggart and Linda Linfield. Joining me today is Janet Taggart. She specializes in empowering leadership transformation from the inside out, coaching aspiring to executive leaders to become known for their highest value. So Janet, you mentioned something recently that I wanted to talk about today. So you mentioned how you surveyed a group of tech leaders and you asked them, what are the challenges that you face in trying to advance your career? And one of the key responses that you got was simply, there's not enough time. I'm too busy to dedicate time to this. And I'm wondering, how do you approach coaching these individuals to help them to clear that roadblock and be able to focus on advancing their career?
I think what they're speaking is the truth. There's not extra time. I don't know anybody who stands around wondering, like, what are they going to fill their time with? Usually we work with folks who are highly engaged, working hard to try to get all of the tasks done on their list. And it crowds out this longer term, a longer view type of perspective on their career. And I would say they're playing more of a short game when they do that. And it's natural and it's short term. It keeps them focused on their to-do list and they can even show up as highly productive that way. So in a way that works for them. Based on the responses I got from that question, deep inside, they know that there's more that they need to develop. And yet they're going so hard and so fast, playing that short game. And I was reflecting, Nikki, on Peter Drucker. I know you went to his Drucker University, and we were talking about that the other day. And he talks a lot about the effective executive. And the short game I look at in his parlance as the efficiency problem, that we drive towards efficiency. And so many of our leaders that we work with, they're trying to get the work done. They're trying to meet deadlines. They're trying to stay on top of their inbox. They're trying to have their teams perform so that the initiatives that have been set down from leadership gets accomplished, right? There's a lot of things on their plate that they're trying to do. And they get caught in that short game or that efficiency game. How do we get things done quickly and turn them around? So what I would coach is to say, okay, that's great if you want to play the short game. And if it was something that you devoted a very small portion of your life toward, I'd say probably, playing a short game is not a big deal. But as you know, we spend a lot of times in our careers. And the amount of success or lack of success in our careers has a real life implication in what our lives look like, what opportunities are available to us, what we can do with our families and loved ones. It's a lifestyle. It's everything in a way. Like our careers really impact us a lot. And so if we're playing a short game in an area where so much of our time and energies and sense of fulfillment in some ways derive from that, then we're really doing ourselves a disservice as well as our teams and our organization as well. So I like to think of the long game and invite people to play the long game. And that's what Drucker said was effective. So efficiency is doing things right, like getting them done, doing things right. And effectiveness is about doing the right things. So what do I mean by the right things? Am I saying that if you're playing the short game, you're not doing right things? No. So we're gonna get a little nuanced. And what I mean by doing the right things is noticing that, yes, you've got a to-do list, you've got objectives, you've got outcomes you've got to meet. And when you're speaking of the long game, you want to make sure that you're paying attention, that you're doing things in the right way. You're doing the right things. In fact, you might look at that list of initiatives and objectives and say, this is what is on the surface, but there's actually goals and initiatives and things behind these goals that it's like the goal behind the goal. And that's where the long game exists. So let me get away from like the theoretical and talk about what I mean exactly. And I'll do this through an example. So recently we were working with a leader in one of our workshops. This particular leader is very intelligent, really knows his work. He knows how to do things right. Right? He knows a lot of those things. And because he's so bright and can see problems before they occur, he often got frustrated when his recommendations were not met with open arms. It was frustrating because he could see the danger if others involved chose another way. And so he got confused if we're using this model of efficient, effective, doing the right things versus doing the things right. He got confused about what his goals were. He thought it was doing the thing when actually it was about creating an environment of and relationships of trust so that things can get handled and worked on together, so that the best of everyone's thinking can be engaged. And when you come in with all guns a-blazing, people get defensive and you don't get the best thinking. So that's where he was operating. He was thinking that the goal was getting the thing done when actually it was about how to get the right thing done. And so, as you can imagine, someone who's bright, someone who's confident, someone who's self-assured and ready to defend their position, he rubbed a lot of people wrong. In fact, it got explosive from time to time. And it was creating problems for not only himself, but his team, for his leader who had to run interference and try to correct things. So here he was showing up to this workshop, and we started talking in terms of feedback and some of the concepts behind how you build those relationships and the value of them, and how that's the real work of leadership. When you can do the right things, then doing things right follow on its heel. What I was amazed with this particular leader, and really quite admirable, he became more open, more coachable than ever before. And in fact, by the end of our 3 sessions together, he was actually asking for more feedback and wanted direct input on how he could improve. Quite a pendulum swing, really. And what we noticed going forward was that he actually implemented the changes he needed to. He actually went out and apologized to leaders whom he'd offended. He actually tried to do all he could to make things right. And instead of being counted out, his leaders started to count him back in and saw him for more and greater opportunity. And it just goes to show that even if you're in a current state of not doing the right things, you can learn it. You can help reverse that so that your brand becomes one of sincerity and authenticity. He still had his strong opinions, but he was able to figure out a way to help the other parties be more open to listening. And so it was a great example of this concept of trying to do the right things in service of doing things right.
I love that story, and what a powerful leader. That's very impressive.
We all have these journeys in life, and one of the things I didn't mention is I have confidence that everyone listening is doing the best they can. They're implementing all the things that they know how to do to their best of their ability. And really, it's so powerful to be able to be given additional tools and just the inflection points, right? It's the proximal development, what's right next to you, that can make the biggest difference. Yes. And I've seen that over and over again. We don't remake. This was a pretty dramatic experience, but typically it's those inflection points that just course correct to such a degree that really people get opportunities sometimes and they're not quite prepared for them, that the small changes actually make such a big difference.
Something that's really standing out to me that drives home, and obviously I see in our work over and over how incredibly important coaching is. In the scenario, where the answer is just right there, that proximal development, it's just right next to them. But sometimes we need that coach to just shift your perspective just that little bit, shift your field of vision to where you can see it, and that answer is so clear. If you are somebody who is humble and teachable, like this person we were talking about, that to embrace it and see what those next steps look like to open that door to what's right next to you. But the coach is the one that changes that vision. Sometimes where you're looking at something and that is everything that and all you have to do is pan out just a little bit and all these answers come, and they were there the whole time, but somebody had to pan you out just that little bit
and
to
I
show
think
you.
We often think, oh, that's way out there. Like, oh, that's what leaders do. Oh, I'm just not the type that builds those type of relationships. I'm not the leadership type. Right. We kind of put it out there and make it bigger than it is. And maybe like for this person, it was a big issue. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But like you said, sometimes it's right next to you, and you can adopt your strengths in order to take that proximal area. Right. We didn't have to convince this leader that what he had to say was important. We didn't have to convince him that others were important. He knew that, but he just didn't know how important it was to be able to take a step back and say, I may not win every battle, but it's really about the relationships. And so that's where that vision opens up. And we begin to see that we're much broader and capable than maybe we imagined.
And that's the long game. That's the ability to see that, and that ability to have that vision expanded so that we can be effective and then efficiently implement that. One way that was described as I learned this was effectiveness is strategic and efficiency is implementation. And without that strategic, right, which he was very strategic in listening and taking this and being willing to transform. That's a strategic thing. It's hard to do, but very much the long game. And I've been thinking about that as you're talking. The long game is strategic, right? The short game is implementation of what the long game is. So, well, thank you for that. And to our listeners, we invite you to appreciate the experiences that have brought you here to this moment of your life's journey. And we invite you to stay open to the possibilities within you. You were meant for greater things. Until next time. At Peridot Circle, we facilitate the growth and transformation of individuals, leaders, and emerging leaders of fast-growing, tech-savvy organizations. If any of our listeners are interested in learning more about our approach to leadership coaching at Peridot Circle Consulting and how we can help transform how you show up at work, book a consult with us online at peridotcircleconsulting.com. We would love to help you and your organization achieve more than ever before.